Oh yeah, you may notice a new cast member here on Home Movies. It's the stove. I bought it the other day. I was like, the black one, the handle fell off of the door. My landlord wouldn't let me. They wouldn't pay for it, so I paid for it. David said it wasn't gonna matter, and Dan and I both thought it would look nice, and the first thing that both Nick the lightman and Dennis the cameraman said was, it looks so nice, what a big difference.
Sometimes you're wrong. And Nick and Dennis and Dan and Alison are right.
That's right. Do you like the new white stove? Let us know. What should we name it?
What's that, Roman?
It's Philadelphia cream cheese time. Hello, welcome to Home Movies. I'm Alison Roman. Today we are making cheesecake. Full disclosure, this is a sponsored video. Even if they were not sponsoring it, I would be saying the same exact thing. It is the only brand. This is not a crazy twist on a cheesecake. This is a very simple version of a cheesecake. For me, I feel like I've made it several ways and have eventually gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, this is the easiest way to A to B, or A to cheesecake. And the reason I like cheesecake in its most classic form is because effectively what I want is to just eat cream cheese. I want to eat as much cream cheese as possible in one sitting. I want it to be well seasoned, and that could mean, savory, bagel, lox, etc. Or it could mean like in a cheesecake, which, surprise, the bulk of the ingredients is cream cheese. But it's also a dessert that I feel like people have a lot of trouble with. I feel like cheesecake is one of those things that I will always order in a restaurant, and it's also one of those things that if you go to a diner or something like that, or if you're like going to a diner, a restaurant. Like what's another? Or like a steakhouse. They have three things, or a diner. They have three things on the menu. It's like key lime pie, brownie or chocolate cake, and a cheesecake. I feel like it's something that I will order every time just to sort of judge one against the other. So I feel like it's a dessert that's been in all of our lives forever, unless you're dairy free. And then this is not for you, this video. Sorry.
Let's do this sea cake.
No, we're not calling it that. So cheesecake is two components. You have the crust and you have the filling. Let's talk about the crust. I think that you could be more flexible with the cookie that you use. I think you could use Biscoff, or you could use like a crunchy ginger snap. I think you could use a Nilla wafer. I'm gonna go ahead and use the original graham cracker for these intents and purposes because I feel like that's what most people are using. But effectively what you're looking for is a cookie that almost has like a cracker-like texture. You don't want a cookie that is too sweet or too spiced because it will sort of dominate the flavor of the cheesecake. One thing I will say, in the recipe, you'll notice that I have given you the measurements in ounces and grams. I know that not everybody has a scale, and I know that that can be annoying if you don't, but the problem is that I can't call for 8 crackers or 1 sleeve of crackers because the way that Nabisco does it is different than the way that Honey Maid does it, is the way from Trader Joe's. What can I say? Insert Oprah gif here, where she's doing that. It's my favorite one. I use it all the time. So I'm gonna crush these by hand. Before I do that, I'm gonna melt 6 tablespoons of butter. Because the crust gets par baked, meaning we bake it before we add the filling, that's always what you're gonna wanna do first. And that's a 325 oven. 325, I repeat, it is a 325. Oh, and to everyone who's always like, your nails are always perfect. How do you do that? Well, guess what? They're like all chipped today. So to crush your graham crackers, this is actually quite a fun task. I'm gonna put these crackers in this bag. This is not a magic trick, although I feel like I was just setting myself up for one. Okay, so you wanna press on it just to kind of get as much air out as possible. And then seal the bag so the crumbs don't go everywhere. I like to give them a pre-crush. And if you didn't have a rolling pin, you could use a heavy bottom skillet. You could use your sour cream.
Oh, wow.
Or, I mean, a rolling pin to me is the easiest and the best, but see how just by doing that, you get like a really nice fine crumb. Graham crackers basically want to fall apart. It looks so cool. It's really fun. Dan, do you want to try it?
Try doing it?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, yeah.
Don't make me sing. It's really satisfying.
Okay. Wow.
No, okay.
Oh, God.
Bye.
Anyone can do it. Listen, Dan, I make it look easy, but that's all you need. We're not trying to make like fine powder. We're trying to just get like a crumb. We have now our bag of crumbs.
Cool magic trick.
Let's see how many cups of crumbs this is. I'm gonna say it's 2 1/4 or 2 on the nose. 1 cup?
1.
Yeah, that's a 2 full cups. And I mean like full. And I do mean full. I mean full. 2 full cups of graham crumbs or any cookie crumb. About 3 tablespoons of sugar. If I'm using a sweeter cookie, like Biscoff is pretty sweet, I probably wouldn't add the sugar, but graham crackers aren't that sweet. So, which is why they're so good with marshmallows and milk chocolate. And anyway, so.
And nothing. That's all that's in a s'more.
You know, somebody is definitely making like s'mores cheesecake, which I bet
Would eat.
Yeah, it sounds good. But this is like, I am generally speaking a dessert purist. I really like, again, to just eat cream cheese. And so this is the easiest way to do that. I like vanilla ice cream and I like mint chip ice cream. Maybe coffee, maybe cookies and cream. All other ice creams, get out of here. I'm gonna mix this with my hands because to me it's the easiest, fastest, and best way to make sure that the crumbs are soaked. Pinch of salt. You're gonna see that the crumbs are not as moist as you think that they might be. And the reason being, in all of the cheesecakes and cookie crumb crusts I've ever made, no matter what dessert I'm doing, if I get it as wet as I think it should be, what happens is the butter just sort of leaches out of the pan and you're left with like a really greasy, sort of oily, the crust doesn't hold.
Is it not too hot to mix with your hands?
The crumbs temper it. I've lost all feeling in my fingertips years ago. So you see how like already they become, this bowl simply isn't big enough, but it's too late now for me to change it. I don't know why I didn't get a bigger bowl. I've had a long week. When you squeeze the crust, it should hold somewhat, but it shouldn't look wet or greasy.
Can you just say that one more time?
When you squeeze the crust, it should hold its shape like that. It should never look wet or greasy. When you squeeze the crust. So I'm gonna put the crust in the springform pan. A word about springform pans, they are probably my favorite baking tool. I use this more than any other pan I own. I use a springform pan more than a cake pan, more than a pie plate. I bake tarts in there, quiche, cheesecake, galettes, deep dish galettes, trifles, summer puddings. I love a springform pan. And what a springform pan is, it is a ring.
Nice.
Thank you. And it has a little spring lever. And what it does is when you close it, it tightens. And it becomes an airtight, liquid tight, not liquid, if you poured water on this, some would drip out, so it's good for anything with a crust or lined with plastic if you're doing something like an ice cream cake, which I've also done. Video one day for that. But yeah, springform pan, I love it. Invest in one if you can. 9 inch is standard. This ratio for this particular cheesecake will work in both a springform, which will give you those nice high sides, but also work in a 9 inch pie plate. You could also use a 9 inch cake pan as long as you lined it with plastic wrap, so you could lift it out easily. It's pretty versatile, this recipe, so don't feel like you need to own a springform, but I will say strong buy. And you know that I don't like to tell you to buy anything that you don't absolutely need or that I wouldn't think that you're gonna use it again and again. I know at least one of you will say this is too dry and you'll add more butter, and that's fine, but I'm telling you, I think you'll have a greasy, soggy crust. Just my 2 cents. So for any graham cracker crust or cookie crust, I start basically with the sides first, but I'll save some of this for the bottom. But basically what I do is I imagine how far up do I want the crust. I'm not going all the way to the top here. This isn't like a crazy deep dish cheesecake. I also think that kind of cheesecake is simply too tall. Just kind of build little walls. You don't have to worry about packing anything yet. I'm just doing this to like effectively see how much crust I have to work with. That looks about good to me. So what I'll do now is I will sort of more forcefully with my fingers press it against the wall. You're basically trying to get the crust totally vertical from the bottom to the top. And that looks good to me. And then I'll take the rest of this crust and you sprinkle it on the bottom. And you use the bottom of your hand, your palm, to just sort of press it like that. Also know that as it bakes, it's gonna become a lot more sturdy than it is right now. And if you notice that any of the sides look a little like short, now is your time where you can kind of pack it again. You don't want a super thick crust on your cheesecake. I would always err on the side of too much on the sides because a really thick crust on the bottom of your cheesecake is always gonna be like kind of sandy and unpleasant to eat. You can always take the bottom of a measuring cup, any size, and kind of use it to press down, which can be easier than using the palm of your hand depending on the size of your pan, the size of your hand. And this is quite satisfying actually, because it gets super nice and flat, which, you know, only you and the cheesecake would know, but.
It's our little secret.
Yeah, it's for just us. So this is gonna go into a 325-degree oven for about 12 to 15 minutes. And during that time, what's gonna happen is the graham crackers are gonna toast, the crust is gonna set, it's baking, it's par baking, it's gonna be preparing itself for the filling. I know it'll go closer to 15. My times are almost always on the high end. I just, you know, some people's ovens are high. Now, the filling. The moment we've really all been waiting for. Do you know what I love about Philadelphia cream cheese, other than literally everything? Generally speaking, what I like about the company is that it's all they make. They just make cream cheese. They decided they were gonna do one thing and they were gonna kill it. Since 1872, did they never feel the need to branch out? And I don't know about you guys, but I respect the hell out of that. It is the only brand for me. It is the only brand for all of us. Just to be clear, I'm using the regular classic original, not the whipped, not the flavored. This is not low fat. This is original full fat block of cream cheese. It's the only cream cheese I've ever used or baked with or eaten with my bagels when I do bagels at home. If they ever went out of business, I would probably not make cheesecake, and I'm not kidding. So we're gonna talk about the filling. The filling can be made in a food processor or it can be made in a stand mixer. Part of the success of your filling is gonna rely on the smoothness of the cream cheese, and that really, the best way to make that happen is doing it with a machine. I'm starting with a pound of cream cheese. Luckily, the cream cheese is already measured out in 8-ounce bricks, so you will never catch me calling for 11 ounces of cream cheese. I call for 8 ounces or I call for 16 ounces. It doesn't have to be softened. I think that you will have good success if it comes straight from the fridge. But, you know, cream cheese does soften at room temperature slightly. If you think I'm gonna make cheesecake later, maybe the first thing you do is you pull your cream cheese out to soften a little bit at room temperature. 1 pound of cream cheese, half a cup of sugar in this mixer. I'm gonna get it going so it gets smooth and creamy. While that's going, I'm gonna add the cup of sour cream, which is 8 ounces, also conveniently measured already in this container. I'm a big fan of anything that comes pre-measured, sort of like if it's 8 ounces, I'm not gonna dirty a measuring cup weighing out or measuring out 1 cup of sour cream. I know this is a cup. All right, while that mixes, well, I'm gonna stop it real quick. I'm gonna scrape down the sides and then I'm gonna zest my citrus. But we're not looking to beat any air into this. This is like more classic New York style than like a fluffy Japanese souffle style. This is where you wanna be sure to scrape down as much as possible because all the lumps will be hiding at the bottom of the bowl. And we don't wanna add anything else to this mixture until all those lumps are gone.
That sound.
Yeah, that old familiar sound.
What do you make that thing?
But I don't know, it has a rhythm. So I'm gonna use lemon and orange. I rarely bake with orange, like almost never. I find it to be like I don't know, it's like orange flavored things to me. It's like always the worst candy. I don't know, it's just like not very chic. But you know what is chic? Creamsicle flavored stuff. And that is the combination of citrus, like orange and milk, dairy, cream cheese, whatever. And so that's why I do endorse and prefer things like orange zest in this cheesecake. But you could add vanilla instead, which would be nice. You could add just lemon zest. You could do lime zest. You could do grapefruit zest. Any sort of citrus zest would be really lovely. But for me, it's gotta be that like orange Julius creamsicle flavor. I worked at Jamba Juice. Creamsicle is my favorite smoothie.
Orange Dream Machine.
Yeah, orange Dream Machine. Secret recipe, can't tell you. I also think they took it off the menu. It's been 12 minutes. I'm gonna leave it in for another 3. Closer to 15, like I said. I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of zest. You also don't have to like get crazy with the measuring. If you're like, oh, I only have half an orange or I only have 1 lemon, like whatever. A little bit does go a long way. Boop. Boop. I'm gonna scrape it down one more time. Ah, so smooth. And then I'm gonna add 2 eggs and my pinch of salt. And now I'm just mixing and combine. Again, I'm not trying to like beat air into it.
Roman, your crust should be done.
What a coincidence. My crust is done as my filling is done. It's almost like I planned it that way. If you do this in a mixer, your citrus zest is gonna get stuck on the beater, if you could see that. That's fine, just scrape it off. Put it back in and make sure that gets reincorporated. Okay, so I'm gonna take the crust out. You don't need to let it rust or anything or cool down before you add your filling, which is really nice. And I'm about to blow your mind. Ask me where the water bath is.
Where's the water bath?
There isn't one. There's no water bath in this cheesecake recipe because I don't think it needs to be there.
Why do most people think there needs to be a water bath?
I think it's a specific recipe that they're using maybe. I also think that like, because it's a custard, i.e. creme brulee, flan, which, you know, have a lot of egg and dairy, I think that there's like a rule that to make something that is silky, creamy, and not like scrambled, then you are needing to cook it gently in the steam, sort of prevents that happening. But I was like, why? I was like, what if we didn't? You don't need to soak your beans and you don't need a water bath for your cheesecake. I said it. All right, so here's our crust. You can see that it's nice and golden brown. It's toasted. It's not gonna get any more brown on the bottom or the sides. It might get a little browner on the top, but I'm fine with that if you are. Not necessary, and I could have done this before, but I'm gonna put this on a sheet pan. It just makes it easier to take in and out of the oven. So here's our mixture here. It's smooth, it's creamy. And I'm just gonna pour this gently into the crust. If for whatever reason you're filling up your cheesecake and you're like, I have too much filling, or like my crust seems really short, just fill the filling up to the crust. And if you have a little bit of extra filling, throw it in the trash. Eat it with a spoon. It has raw eggs in it, I don't care. But don't freak out, don't panic, and don't fill your filling past the crust because it will leak out over the sides. It's not good. So next time, just be like, oh, I need to make the crust a little higher. This is going back into a 325 oven, no water bath needed. It's gonna be in there for 20 to 30 minutes, and I will show you what to look for when it comes out. The time has come for us to turn off the oven. We're not gonna remove the cheesecake just yet. The reason being is, if you'll notice, sometimes your cheesecakes crack. The reason being is that either A, you've overbaked your cheesecake, or B, there's too much of an intense temperature fluctuation that you went straight from the oven to the fridge. So you're going from 325 Fahrenheit to 40 Fahrenheit. That's like a really intense change. It can't handle that.
Any of us would crack under that pressure.
Yeah, am I right? Thank you, David. See how it just jiggles? Do you see that? Like Jell-O. It's not totally set. It's like the water glass in Jurassic Park. And then the oven turns off. I'm gonna come back to it in about 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. I'm gonna take the cheesecake out of the oven and I'm just gonna transfer it to a wire rack to let the air circulate. If you don't have a wire rack, that's fine. You can set it on your countertop if it's heat safe, or if this isn't too warm up here, just set it right on your grates of your oven. I'm gonna let this cool to room temperature and then I'm gonna stick it in the fridge. So I'll see you in like 3 hours.
What do you want to
I'm gonna go get day drunk. Obviously, who has the time to wait 3.5 hours when we're shooting a home movie? So I made a cheesecake this morning, which is gonna be the one that I'm going to pull out now and show you how to remove the springform pan and show you how nice and creamy and delicious it looks when it's sliced, even though we didn't use a water bath. So take it out, and then what you wanna do is you wanna just gently release the spring, or you could remove the plastic wrap from the cake pan. If you're using a pie plate, you're literally just slicing it in the pie plate. But for the springform, removing the band, and then you have this like beautiful, tall, crusted cheesecake. And the beauty of a springform is that you can just slice it right on the base of the springform. If it's a nonstick surface, just be careful with your knife, but you don't have to like slide off the whole cake onto a plate or anything before you start slicing. So you can just cut a beautiful slice from there, put it on a plate. If you're the type of person that really feels the need to embellish the cheesecake with something, now is the time, you want to top it with whipped cream, with whipped sour cream, add more fresh citrus on top, anything like that would be lovely. For me, the cheesecake that's baked in the spring form doesn't really need anything. It's when I bake it in a pie plate or a tart pan, when it's more shallow, that I feel the need to like adorn it with stuff. But because this is already so thick, I don't think that you need anything else here. And so here we are, this beautiful cheesecake. Just like I said, it's creamy. It's not too thick. It's not like a towering, like New York style tends to be like extremely tall, which might be too tall for me. But you can see it's like beautiful, creamy, luscious. It's so good. I think I want some more flaky salt on top. It's so like light, I think because the citrus sort of, hey, I'm talking here.
Sorry.
Do you want to share with the class? Do you want to come eat this cheesecake on camera?
No.
Come up.
That's my punishment.
Yeah. And you have to tell us what you think of it.
Oh yeah.
Jesus, Dan.
Sorry. That was really good. Tastes like a creamsicle.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
Really
you
good.
know, if orange isn't your beat, if you prefer the more classic variety, like I said, just use vanilla, don't use the zest. But this really does to me feel like
Come back, Dan.
special. Just come try it. The texture of it, I think because there's also
I hate this.
sour cream.
I hate this so much.
There's sour cream in it. It like keeps it light and fluffy and airy. Also know that when you make it in a food processor, it's going to be a little denser versus a stand mixer, which is going to be a little lighter because you're beating air into it.
Really good. Honestly, it tastes like you're biting into like
A soft cloud? Thank you so much to Philadelphia Cream Cheese for sponsoring this video. Without Philadelphia Cream Cheese, this recipe would truly never be possible. So we are very grateful. And remember, with Philadelphia Cream Cheese, you don't just taste it, you feel it.
You feel it!
You feel it!
Use the scissors, they're right there.
I know, but I'm making this way harder than it has to be. If I were alone, I would just squeeze it from the package and it would like get all over my hands and I'd lick my fingers. I'm not gonna do that. I'm out of breath. I've been talking
Because of cream cheese?
because I love cream so much.